On this episode of Watch Time, we're going to be talking about public safety and government recruitment videos and why they're essential to attracting the right candidates for your test, right after this. Welcome back to Watch Time, everybody. So like we'd mentioned in the intro, today we're going to be talking about recruitment videos, specifically public safety, because that is one sector that we do focus on here at Flex Media. You know, we have renewable energy, we have manufacturing, and then public safety, whether it be public safety recruitment, so police, fire, EMS, even military recruitment videos, or public safety equipment, manufacturing, or services, so people that support them. And I think this is often a topic, you know, recruitment, people don't really think about video necessarily when they think about getting quality recruits.
Yeah, and part of the reason why we focus on those spaces is because that is in our team's backgrounds. And so not only can we deliver a professional video, we also have knowledge of the industries to be able to make sure, you know, we're including what's important in those. So right now, I think a major challenge of public safety and law enforcement based on, what's in the news and what we've heard from our clients is just recruiting. I mean, a lot of people are having trouble hiring right now, but that's definitely hitting public safety pretty hard.
Well, and I think what a lot of it is, it's the recruitment process is a very rigorous process, but then I also feel like a lot of things that aren't as appealing to people maybe are the schedules and things of that, or maybe even the news coverage. So, you know, we really say, like Kathie was saying before, because we have background in this, like we really know the end user. You know, myself personally, I used to be a police officer before starting this company. And I mean, I've been in video longer than I think I've been a police officer. But so I really understand the video aspect, but I understand the end user and the recruit because I went through the process. We have other people on our team that have prior military. We work with some people that have prior fire and EMS. So we know people that have gone through these processes and understand. And I think where a video is such a key thing to the recruitment process is it really allows the end user to get a glimpse into what the day-to-day is going to look like. And also, you know, who's already on the team and, you know, do your beliefs match up with their beliefs? And I think that that's important because it is a rigorous process, but also it's a very expensive process for the cities and counties and state agencies that have to go through this.
Yeah, hiring is always going to take a lot of time, you know, from your team, but especially when you're operating in, you know, a tight budget and really you need, like, really having the right people on your team is a matter of life and death and safety and being able to be effective in your department. And like you said too, it's really competitive because you think of all the agencies out there, you know, and you're all trying to kind of compete in the same pool. You know, it's so having a video not only can capture some of the benefits that your department might offer, but really depict what that person might be doing day to day. And then also, I feel like it's really important because it captures your department culture. And I know that is one thing that really differs from agency to agency. Just really, how does it feel to be part of this team? You know, what can you expect? And that's something that is really captured best by seeing, you know, people talk and those actual department members speak in a video.
Yeah, and that's very true. I think that really helps set things apart for people that are watching those videos. If anybody that's, you know, watching or listening to the podcast right now, you know, if you're a marketer and you're working with city, state, county agencies and helping with recruitment, I mean, it doesn't just have to be, you know, police, fire, EMS. Like, there are a lot of other agencies within these different government services that people are trying to recruit for. So if you're helping with recruitment with that, if you're with an entity and you're trying to recruit, or even if you're a consultant trying to help these entities recruit, I think that the key thing to really understand with a video and why it's so powerful is, on paper, a lot of these agencies, a lot of these different government entities, they look very similar because there are a lot of unions and there are a lot of things that are regulating the amount of pay, the amount of time off, the amount of health care, because you have to stay competitive within your area. So if you know, for example, if you're a fire department and you're in Northeast Ohio, you know, maybe you're on the west side of Northeast Ohio, all of your benefits are going to look very similar to agencies that surround you. So really the video, what that's going to do is, just as Kathie was saying, it's going to really allow you to set yourself apart because, most of these recruits, they know what the pay is. They know what the benefits are, the retirement and the time off. And I think with today's workers, they're not really looking for that, especially with millennials. Millennials really want to make a difference. So if you're trying to target millennials, they want to make a difference. Gen Z does not trust brands. So, if they just see you as a brand like every other agency, you're just the same. So how can you really step out and gain that trust? How can you really show somebody that they can make an impact? And I think a video from the agency or from the entity really helps you do that because you can tell that story. You can show those specialized units. You can show the room for advancement. You can show the impact that's being made on a community, and it can all be communicated in that video.
Yeah, it's. I mean, even from our work, department to department, like it's opened my mind, to how they all really differ, and you want to find the best fit, when you're looking for candidates and when you're a candidate looking for opportunities. So that can really help, really make sure you're getting the right fit, because I know when you hire somebody, there's a lot of costs up front to get them started. Like you're getting uniforms and training and equipment and everything. So you don't want to have someone that's just going to come on for a year and then find out they really weren't a great fit and then, leave.
Well, and to that point, I mean, I'm sure it's costs a lot more now, but about probably 12, 13 years ago, I was having a conversation with the police chief at one of the local agencies here in Cleveland, and they were saying that like when they hire a new recruit, for a police officer recruit, between uniforms, paying for the police academy, and also training, they said it was costing them around $30,000 to $35,000 to equip a recruit. And for a recruit to wash out after you've spent all that money, I'm sure it's more now, it's probably closer to 50, to wash out because you didn't have the right candidate, because they didn't know, like, oh, I didn't realize that, there's only 20 people on this department. Oh, I didn't realize that, like, there's no opportunity to become on the SWAT team or become a sergeant, or even for the fire department. Oh, I didn't realize, that there was no room for advancement, that like there's only like 2 supervisors and that's it. And we're a small agency and we don't really deal with a lot of fire. We just, maybe do some squad calls. So I think it's important, because these people that are out there trying to fill these positions, they're looking for something, whether it be they want to work in a busier department where they can make an impact, whether it be they want to work maybe in a slower paced department, maybe they want to work for a fire department that works on more active fires, maybe they want to work for a fire department that has more EMS calls because they prefer the EMS side of things, or maybe they want to work for an EMS agency altogether. So just looking at those public safety areas, I think that these videos can really help do that. But I also think, for everyone that's watching or listening, what's great about doing a recruitment video is it isn't something you have to do every year. You can do this once, and it's going to last you as long as, department culture stays the same, and that it can last you for 5, 6, 7 years. And what's great about our company, for example, or maybe even other video companies out there, depending on where you're at, we offer photography services with our video. So we can have somebody out there shooting photos while we're shooting video. So you can really get all of your visual assets for your hiring campaign all done in one video shoot.
Yeah, and I think that's important because a lot of agencies don't have many marketing assets at all. I mean, even I think like you're lucky if you have like a decent website, because they just, you might not have the resources.
Or you're stuck to the government's website that you have to use.
Yes, you have to use that. So, I mean, really having the ability to add something a little bit more personalized and authentic and custom, whether it's a video and then also capturing those photos that you can add to your website. Or I know a lot of departments now are using social media to communicate with even the greater community. So you're able to show the work that you're doing. And we can also, from your larger video, we talk about this all the time, but from your larger video, you can create shorter videos that you can have on social media too. So you can get a lot of content out of your video shoot.
Well, and the content that we capture also, like one thing I guess to your point to think about, like it can be for promotion, for recruitment, but yeah, it can also be for day to day, a photo of an officer or, on a traffic stop, or a firefighter on the back of a fire engine, like that could be a nice social media post, something that says like, our team's out there, supporting you, have a safe Friday, things like that. So I think there's great assets that can be used even beyond this campaign. One thing I really wanted to touch on, just for anybody that's, watching or listening, when we talk about making this effective recruitment video, like what makes this effective? Because I think what I really want to shed some light on is that you can hire anybody to come out and shoot this. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of videographers and photographers out there, but I want to just give you a couple things to really think about to know if you found the right videographer or photographer, or, because you don't want to waste your agency's money. If you have a grant, you don't want to waste your grant. You want to have something that's going to help you. And I really think the couple things you really need to think about is, one, does this company have experience doing this? Because, it doesn't necessarily have to be law enforcement recruitment or, public safety recruitment. They could be creating recruitment videos for manufacturers, for anybody in other, service-based industries. But do they have experience creating recruitment videos? Because there is some thought process behind that people need to consider.
Yeah.
And then I would say number two, the one big thing to look at is, do they have, or are they asking you the right questions? So when they come in, they should be asking you questions about your end user. Who is your ideal candidate? Like, who do you want to recruit? Who would you want to, answer this ad and come out and show up for the test? And I think that can be done by looking at officers you already have in your department, or firefighters you already have in your agency, and then saying, okay, well, what's an ideal person? Like, what do we like about them? And then you can list those qualities, and that person's going to get in depth about that. And then, okay, so what attracted that person to your agency? And then you kind of get that figured out, and that helps you create a script and the things you're going to talk about, because you just don't want to get somebody who comes out there and just shoots a bunch of stuff and puts something together and goes, here's a cool video that'll attract somebody to want to be a fireman, but then doesn't talk at all about what it's like to be a fireman.
Yeah, that really is important, because I think, public safety is an area where you can get some really like cool footage. But I think that a lot of that footage can look the same from department to department, because you're generally doing similar things. But so you really do want to work with someone who's going to get to the bottom of like, okay, what differentiates you, and, what makes your department unique or different? How can we capture that? So because it's so competitive. Like, that's really the key, is figuring out how to make your department look different and really communicate what it's like to get the ideal candidate, and make sure that those people like are able to fill those positions for the long run, so you're able to move forward.
Yeah, because we're not really, we're not shooting a movie, and I think that's important, and I think people that work in this space, so if you work for a public safety entity, or if you work for a government entity, you know that there are misconceptions out there from television. There are shows about police officers, about firefighters, EMS, or shows about parks and recreation departments and things like that.
Yes.
So you have this misconception of what it might be like to work in the city, and we don't want to further that with the video. Like, there are exciting parts of different jobs within government, work, but we really want to convey what it is you do day to day as well, because we don't want to bait and switch. We don't want you to attract the candidate because they go, this is really cool. And they get there and they're like, I didn't know I had to write reports for half my day.
And that's important too, especially as you're hiring, people that are newer to those fields, because that probably is the idea they have about your job. And so you need to be able to show the realities of your day to day, from the really exciting, intensive stuff to the day-to-day, and really give an accurate picture that maybe is different than what they're seeing on TikTok or Instagram or in movies or things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, as the end user, if you're sitting down watching a video somebody created, if you don't watch that video and go, that's a pretty good representation of any given day here, then they probably missed the mark, because, if you watch it and they're like, wow, that made my job seem a lot more exciting than it really is, or that made it seem like we don't do a lot here, then it's probably not, the right fit for you. So just keep that in mind, and make sure you really convey that to the person you're working with. Like, I really want this to be kind of feeling like if somebody was to go with me to work for a day. I really want them to understand that like we have highs, we have lows, and everything in between, and how do we cover those things. And I think the recruitment video helps with that.
Definitely. I don't know if we want to maybe touch on a little bit about what people can expect if a team comes out to do a recruiting video. Like some of the, ones we've done, obviously we have that initial discussion, pre-production, just like everything to find out, what differentiates you, what units you have, what we want to include. Some of the things to consider are, interviews. Who do you want to interview? We suggest having a representative from every department that you're trying to fill. So if you're looking for dispatchers, you should have someone from your dispatch team be on there. So interviews are definitely part of it. And then, making sure that we're getting shots that reflect all units or all parts of the job.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And I think that's important to talk about, from the pre-production standpoint. We're going to ask a lot of questions that they may seem redundant. They may seem like I know this, like somebody else would know this, but it's better to have that level of detail in these questions so we can help communicate that to our team than it would be to just assume that we know that or everybody knows that. And I think moving forward from there with the interviews, like Kathie touched on a great point. You want to be able to have different representatives from what you're trying to fill, but you also want to have some representatives that, younger people in their career, people that are mid in their career, people that are further along getting ready to retire in their career, because you kind of want your candidate to see this from all aspects. Like, what's it going to be like after I'm here for 10 years? What's it going to be like when I'm getting close to retirement? Like, these are things that you really need to start to think about, when you're trying to figure out who you want to interview.
Yeah, and what's leadership like? Like, what are my bosses going to be like? Like, am I going to be, what's their style and goals for me, and how am I going to fit into that? I think that's all really important to make sure that we're capturing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the biggest thing for pre-production is making sure we cover all those bases, but then also answering all the questions that anybody gives you, because though they may seem, easy to you, or maybe they don't seem like they're that important, they're being asked for a reason. And, that's why we want to make sure we cover those. I think going from pre-production, one thing I really want to touch on, just for anyone listening or watching, if you have a team come out, is production. So like, what's that look like? Because I think there's, different beliefs on this. Like some people, maybe if you're in law enforcement or fire EMS, maybe you've worked on an active movie set. So like, because movies come around and they hire public safety people to do security and be there for medical attention. So maybe you've worked on that and you might be thinking it's going to be this big thing. And then maybe you haven't. You think it's going to be one person and a camera showing up and getting a bunch of stuff. So I would say it varies depending on who you work with. But for us, at least, what we can speak to is typically if you want a good, solid 3 to 4 minute recruitment video that touches on all these different, we'll use law enforcement because we just did one, like all the different departments within your agency, you're probably looking at a good 2 to 3 days worth of
production. Yeah, because you're doing the interviews, you might spend doing that, and then you're getting shots of each unit. So there's a lot there's a lot that goes into it. Like I was gonna say, so since I am typically the producer on a lot of these, one thing that's really helpful to me is having one point of contact who is kind of helping manage everybody, because schedule can be tough. It's hard to maybe lock in all your different team members, and we realize that the day may have to ebb and flow and be flexible, but having someone that's done their best to line up everyone so that we can get what we need to get, but then also allow them to do their job is really helpful. And we hate when maybe we're not able to get something because of scheduling. So the more we can schedule and you can be our coordinator kind of between the rest of your team and ours. I mean, that goes for any shoot, but I feel like especially in public safety, because there does tend to be a lot of moving parts. Plus, you're like responding to calls and things, so it's got to be efficient. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, you also need to get places that maybe you can't get access to without somebody who works for the agency. And also, I guess adding to that, like one thing to think about is you want to make sure you bring in team members that are off duty or not actively working on a project. So like if you're an entity and you're like, oh, I have team here, but they're not doing anything and we're not going to need them, cool, let's use them. If you're, public safety entity, if you're fire, EMS, police, like you want to bring people in that are off duty because we need to borrow them. And last thing we want to do is follow people around when they're trying to get to a call. And even though it might make sense for somebody that's, coming into this like, oh, well, we have 6 people on shift and we'll just have you work with this person. And then if they have to go to a call, they'll leave and you can work with this person. Well, it breaks up things and we might risk not getting what we need to get, especially interviews. We don't want people that have to get up and run out on a call because they're being interviewed. So whether that's bringing in some people off duty, whether that's bringing in additional support staff so we can use the person who's on shift that you want, you just want to make sure you have that covered. And then also know, we're going to bring probably, I would say a safe bet is a team of 4 to 6 people, give or take. And the whole purpose of that is we're going to have 2 teams usually running. So like one team shooting B-roll, another team might be doing interviews. And then eventually you might have 2 teams shooting B-roll so we can maximize our time. And B-roll, just in case you don't know, B-roll is the footage that we use to kind of cover up the interview and tell the story. So they're doing that. We usually have a producer, Kathie, or we have another producer or 2 that we like to use that can come on location. They can ask the questions. They can manage the schedule. They can be that point of contact. So just how we want them to have a point of contact for us, we assign a point of contact for them. And then we also are going to have some people that are managing lighting and managing equipment and moving things around because there are a lot of moving parts. We typically show up with 5, 6, 7 lights that we're using for different setups. We show up with 3 cameras that we're running around on different rigs and things like that because we're just trying to get everything that we can get and be as efficient as possible so you can have a great product that delivers a great end result that gets you the recruit that you want, and then you don't have to do it more than 6, 7 times, once every 6 to 7 years.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I've really enjoyed the recruitment videos that we've done so far. I think they've been our feedback has been really good. That they've been effective for their departments. So I would just encourage anybody who is even thinking about a recruitment video, reach out. We can answer your questions. It can really be something that sets your agency apart.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think, if you're really trying to just, if you're scratching your head right now and you're like, man, I'm just not getting the recruits that I want, or, we get people showing up and they're good, but they're not a good fit for what we're doing. Maybe they need someplace a little more active. Maybe they need a different type of work. Like maybe they shouldn't be a policeman. Maybe they should be a fireman. Maybe they should, work for the service department and not work for the fire department. And this is a great way to really help eliminate that issue because there's nothing worse than, like we talked about, getting somebody in there to start working that role and then finding out, man, we just invested, all this money and months worth of time into somebody that just isn't right for what we're doing.
Yeah. Nobody's got time for that.
No. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, if you want to see some examples of things that we've done, check out our website, flexmediacle.com. You'll find a recruitment tab on there. You can see some of the videos that we've done. If we can help you with a project, that'd be great. If you just want to use this as a point of reference for a project you're working on, that's great too. But we're happy to answer questions. And, we'd like to maybe do some more podcast segments on things that can apply to public safety recruitment or even, government recruitment. So if you have a question, let us know.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for listening to Watch Time. We hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.
And remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes.
And if you want your question answered on our podcast, go to flexmediacle.com/watchtime.